Alright guys, welcome to your 40th C++ tutorial, and in this tutorial we're going to be taking a quick break from pointers and we're going to be covering something called the size of function. Now the size of function is actually a function that you use a lot when working with pointers, but for this demonstration, just to give you guys an idea of what the size of function does, I don't want to include pointers because that's too much information for one tutorial. So we're just going to be seeing a simple demonstration of the size of function, and then later on we can apply it to pointers. But for now, let's go ahead and check it out. So what the size of function does is it basically determines the size of either an array or maybe a variable or a constant. It pretty much determines the size of something in bytes. And remember, bytes is just the size of memory, like 4 bytes, 1 byte, yada yada yada. So let's go ahead and make a basic variable. I don't know if I taught you guys the char yet, but char just is a variable of character type. It basically stores a character. So let's go ahead and make a variable char, and we'll call it variable c. And let's go ahead and see how the size of function works. So you go ahead and you type size of, and then in the parameter you type what do you want to get the size of. Well, let's just go ahead and get the size of this variable right here, and then we'll just end that line. And that's it. You go ahead and run it, and it outputs the size of character, which is 1 byte. So any character we store in our computer, it takes 1 byte of memory. Alright, simple enough. So let's go ahead and make another type of variable like an integer variable. So how many bytes do integers take up on our computer? Well, if you don't get the same number as me, don't worry, but because every computer is a little bit different. On my computer, an integer takes up 4 bytes of memory. So again, if you have like 2 or 8 or maybe you have 4, same as me, don't think you're running the program wrong. Every computer stores memory differently. Mine says 4. So anyways, we know that a char takes 1 byte, an integer takes 4 bytes, and now let's go ahead and see double. Well, we already know an integer can store numbers without a decimal point, and those take up 4 bytes. A double is pretty much a more precise integer, so that's why whenever we run this, we're expecting to see 8 bytes or something higher than 4. And the reason that doubles take up more memory than integers is because they're more precise. So anyways, what I want to stress is the more precise a value is, the more memory it needs to take up. So that's all I wanted to stress. And now let's jump into something else. Instead of these basic data types, let's say we had something like an array. Now, an array is basically like 10 integers strung together, or maybe 15 doubles strung together. So let's go ahead and make a double array, and we'll call it Bucky, and it can store 10 doubles. Now remember, a double took up 8 bytes on my computer, so we have an array of Bucky and it has 10 doubles. We're expecting to see 10 times 8 bytes. So this entire array should take up 80 bytes of memory. So let's go ahead and see if our prediction is right. Size of Bucky, you go ahead and just write the name of the array in there, and then go ahead and end line, not Ned line, end line, there we go. So now whenever we run it, check it out. 80 bytes right there, and that is because each double is 8 bytes, and we're going to store 10 of them, so that's why this entire array took up 80 bytes of memory. Simple enough, but you're saying, alright, so I know what the size of function does, but why would I ever need to know, the size of bytes? I mean, that's the computer's operating system's problem. I really am just a programmer. I don't have to worry about memory that much. Well, one useful way you can use this function right now, before I, jump into pointers and all that stuff, is maybe you want to find out how many elements are in an array. So, maybe you had the user make an array or something and you don't know how many elements it had, and you needed to know how many elements this array had in order to make a calculation. Well, of course, we know that this array has 10 elements, but say we were trying to figure it out anyways. Something you can do is this. Cout. What you can do is get the size of Bucky. Remember, this would give you the 80 bytes. This is the entire size of your array, 80 bytes. And what you do is divide it by the size of one element. And to do that, just go ahead and write size of Bucky 0, which is the first element. And then whenever you print it out in line, you should get 10. So let's go ahead. Here's the 80 before, and now we get 10, which means 10 elements in our array. And again, why did this happen? What we did is we took the entire size of our array Bucky, which was 80 bytes, and we divided it by one element size, which was 8. So 80 bytes divided by 8 bytes gives us 10 elements. So again, anytime you want to get the number of elements in your array, say you couldn't see that line for some reason, take the entire size of your array and divide it by the size of one element, and your answer is how many elements you get in your array. So again, here's a basic example of the size of. Again, all we did is find the size of different, data types, arrays, variables, yada yada. But later on, we're going to be using this to work with pointers, and it's actually a lot more useful than just finding how many elements are in your array. So, now you guys know the size of. Now, whenever I teach it later on, you won't get confused. So for now, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.